The mountains loomed like teeth. Ragged and white, they tore into the sky with a savagery no map could soften. Wind screamed between their peaks, carrying a sound not unlike voices, howling in chorus, though the land here had been empty for decades. I pulled my coat tighter and adjusted the lantern strap to my pack. The path was a ribbon of black ice, half buried under snowdrifts that swallowed whole stones and bones alike. I had been summoned here not by official writ, nor by the hand of any government, but by a letter written in ink that refused to fade. A letter that smelled faintly of ozone, as if penned beneath a storm. The message had been simple. Detective Pierce, the observatory is awake again. We need you before it chooses its next star. No name. No signature. Just coordinates leading me into this wilderness, into the teeth of the storm. I found my guide waiting where the road ended, a man hunched in a fur coat patched with wolf pelts, his beard frosted to iron. He introduced himself as Gregor. He did not smile, nor did he extend a hand. He only nodded once and muttered, "The mountain doesn't forgive. Keep close, and don't look up too long." We began the climb. Hours passed. The storm thickened. The snow fell not as flakes but as shards, stinging the eyes, tearing at exposed skin. My lantern offered little against the dark. A weak circle swallowed whole with every gust. Gregor trudged ahead, boots crunching the crusted snow, his breath steaming like smoke. At one point I glanced up, just for a moment. Through the storm, I thought I glimpsed the observatory. A black dome against white sky, its surface rimed with frost, its eye unblinking. I looked away quickly, heart pounding, though I could not say why. "You saw it," Gregor rasped. Not a question. A statement. "Yes." "Don't." "Not yet. The longer you stare, the more it stares back." We pressed on. By nightfall, we reached the base of a ridge where a line of rusted cable carts hung frozen on their wires. Each one swayed faintly though no wind touched them. Their windows were iced opaque, but shapes pressed faintly from within. Fingers? Faces? I could not be sure. Gregor spat into the snow. The last workers never came down. Their families begged, but no one cut the wires. Best left hanging. I forced myself not to look at the nearest cart too long. Still, I could swear the glass bulged as though something pressed from the inside. We made camp in a shallow cave. Gregor lit a fire, the flames struggling against the wet wood. Shadows twisted across the rock, resembling constellations I did not know. As we ate in silence, I heard it. Faint. Almost lost beneath the storm's howl. A humming. Low at first, like bees trapped in amber. Then rising steady, as though countless throats hummed in unison, a single note piercing the cold. Gregor froze, spoon halfway to his mouth. His eyes widened with a fear that belonged to a child, not a man hardened by winters. "It begins again," he whispered. "What does?" "The choir of the dome. Once it sang to the sky. Then it fell silent. But when it returns..." He did not finish. He threw the rest of his stew into the fire, and muttered prayers in a language I did not know. I did not sleep that night. We resumed our climb at dawn. The humming never stopped. It wove itself into the wind, into the crunch of our steps, into the very rhythm of my pulse. The closer we drew to the observatory, the louder it became, though never from one direction. Sometimes it came from above, sometimes below, sometimes inside my own skull. By midday, Gregor halted. He pointed his staff ahead, toward a ridge littered with black stones. "They came this way," he said. I followed his gesture. At first I thought the shapes were rocks. But no. They were frozen bodies. Men and women, curled in the snow, their eyes open wide and glazed with frost. Each one held an expression not of fear, but of awe, as though they had died mid-revelation. Around them, the snow was melted into strange patterns. Circles. Spirals. Symbols too precise to be accidents of wind. Gregor's voice dropped to a whisper. They followed the song. I crouched near one of the bodies. The frost had preserved it perfectly. A worker, by the look of his torn uniform. His lips were parted, his teeth coated in ice. But what made me recoil was the star carved into his tongue. A star with too many points. I stood quickly. How long have they been here? Gregor shook his head. Days. Years. Time breaks here. Don't linger. We left them behind, though their frozen eyes seemed to follow. By evening, the observatory rose above us at last. A dome of iron and glass, half buried in snow, its telescope pointed eternally skyward. Icicles hung from its edges like teeth. The wind around it fell suddenly still. Silence. After days of howling storm, the quiet was suffocating. Gregor stopped at the base of the steps leading to the observatory's great doors. He refused to ascend. I will go no further, he said. His eyes darted toward the dome. It sees too much. If I enter, it will know me, and I will never leave. Then wait here. He shook his head. I wait below. If you return, call thrice. If you do not, I will burn what ropes remain and let the mountain take you. He turned without another word and vanished into the storm. I was alone. The observatory's doors stood ajar. Frost had fused their hinges, yet they gaped as though waiting. I raised my lantern, its light spilling over carvings etched into the iron, constellations I did not recognize, stars that seemed to shift as I watched. I stepped inside. The air was colder than outside. Each breath crystallized instantly, falling as glittering shards. My lantern flame shrank, reluctant to burn here. The entrance hall stretched vast and circular, walls lined with shattered display cases. Charts of the heavens, now faded and torn. Telescopes broken, lenses cracked. But above all, the dome itself, its glass ceiling frosted over, though faint light pulsed beyond it, as though something shone through the frost from the other side. The humming grew louder. I followed it deeper, my boots crunching over glass and bone alike. Doors yawned open into side chambers, offices, laboratories, sleeping quarters. In each, the same sight repeated, journals left open mid-sentence, ink frozen mid-drop, chairs pulled back as though their owners had risen quickly. Yet no bodies. Not at first. In one chamber, I found them. Rows of cots, each occupied. Astronomers in their uniforms, lying peacefully with hands folded on their chests. Their skin pale, their lips blue. Their eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Every single one had carved the same star into their tongues. The humming vibrated through the floor, through my bones. I clutched my lantern tighter and whispered aloud, as though the sound of my own voice could break the weight of silence. This is not death, I said. This is worship. And then, as if in answer, the lantern guttered out. Darkness swallowed me whole. And the observatory began to sing. The darkness in the observatory was not absence, but weight. It pressed against me like a tide, thick and smothering, drowning even thought. For a heartbeat, I wondered if I had gone blind. Then the singing began. Not one voice, not dozens, but hundreds, layered upon one another like threads of a tapestry. Low at first, a murmur from the marrow of the building, then rising until the glass dome above quivered with the force. No words, not at first, only tones, notes stretched to impossible lengths, vibrating in my ribs. I lit a match. The tiny flame flared weak against the tide of song, but it was enough to reveal the chamber once more. The astronomers in their cots were no longer still. Their chests rose. Their mouths opened. From each throat issued a line of the harmony, joining, weaving, until the room became an organ of flesh. They sang, though their lungs were cold, though their veins were glass. I stumbled back, match burning down to my fingers. Pain snapped me alert, and I dropped it. Darkness again, save for their eyes. In the pitch black, each pair of eyes glowed faintly, stars stitched into sockets. I gripped my lantern and shook it violently. The flames sputtered, caught, and burned once more, weak but alive. The song did not falter. "Stop," I whispered. My voice vanished into their chorus, devoured. I turned and fled deeper into the observatory. The corridors spiraled inward. Stone staircases curved up toward the dome, their banisters etched with constellations. My light caught symbols carved freshly into the walls, spirals, branching lines, stars with too many points. Some still bled, though the cuts were into stone, not flesh. The higher I climbed, the louder the song became. It no longer resembled human voices, but something vaster, something resonant with the architecture itself. Every column vibrated, every beam hummed. The observatory was the instrument, the dead were only strings. At the landing, I found another chamber. Desks overturned, papers scattered like snow. At the center lay a great star chart, stretched taut upon a wooden frame. Its constellations had been altered, redrawn. Familiar patterns twisted into new ones, foreign skies imposed upon ours. A quill lay beside it, ink still wet. But the ink shimmered, iridescent, as though alive. I leaned closer, lantern raised. The chart pulsed faintly beneath the parchment, as though a heartbeat throbbed below the stars. And as I stared, one of the constellations shifted, lines bending, stars crawling across the page. It formed a shape. An eye. The ink swelled at its center, pushing upward until the paper split. A droplet rose from the wound, glistening black, and hovered in the air. It blinked. I stumbled back, knocking over the desk. The droplet fell and burst across the floor like oil, soaking into the stone. The song swelled, triumphant. I fled the chamber. The stairwell ended at a great door of bronze, its surface carved with the same impossible star I had seen on the workers' tongues. The metal was warm beneath my palm, pulsing faintly. I pushed it open. The dome. It rose vast and cavernous, the ceiling an arc of glass eyes thick but glowing faintly with pale light from beyond. The great telescope stood at its center, a beast of brass and iron, its lens aimed directly skyward. Frost crawled along its barrel like veins. And around it, the astronomers stood. Dozens of them, the same I had seen lying in their cots below. Now risen, their limbs stiff, their mouths open in song. Their eyes blazed with starlight, their tongues black with ink. They swayed as one, circling the telescope like priests around an altar. At the front of the circle stood one figure taller than the rest. His coat bore more insignia, his face more flesh than bone. The director, perhaps. His hands were raised, fingers crooked like claws, conducting the choir. As I entered, his head turned. His eyes burned brighter than the others. "Pierce," he said. The song fell silent at once. The stillness was worse. My breath smoked in the air. "You know my name?" The director tilted his head. His voice carried not only through his mouth but through the dome itself, echoing from every surface. "Names are written here, long before you are born. We sang yours into the sky years ago." The circle of astronomers shifted, parting to reveal the telescope. Its lens swiveled downward, though no gears turned. It pointed at me like a cannon. The director stepped closer. his mouth stretched in a smile too wide. "We have waited for you. The mountain called, the storm guided, and still you came. You are faithful, though you do not yet know it." "I am no faithful," I said. My hand brushed the revolver at my side. "Tell me what this place is." "This is not place," he whispered. "This is aperture. A window cut into the skin of night. When it opens fully, we do not look at the stars. The stars look at us." He raised his hands and the choir resumed. The song struck like a blow. My lantern shattered in my grip, glass cutting into my palm, flame extinguished. Darkness surged in, lit only by their eyes. The telescope's lens blazed white. Images struck me, not seen, but forced into the marrow of thought. Skies torn open, constellations rearranged like chess pieces. A vast shape crawling between stars, its body the length of galaxies, its eyes countless suns. A hand, if hand it could be called, stretching across the void, fingers brushing our world like a moth against glass. The song drilled deeper. My knees buckled. Blood filled my mouth. My mind screamed, but my body swayed with their rhythm, drawn to join. "No!" I gasped. My voice was swallowed, but I forced it out again. "No!" My fingers closed around the revolver. I raised it and fired. The shot cracked through the song. The director staggered back, chest bursting black ink instead of blood. The choir faltered, voices breaking. The telescope groaned, its lens shattering with a sound like the splitting of sky. Silence. Then screams. The astronomers convulsed, clutching their faces as the starlight drained from their eyes. Some collapsed, twitching. Others burst into clouds of ash and snow. The director writhed, his body splitting at the seams, ink flooding the floor. And from above, the glass dome fractured. Through the cracks, pale light poured, not moonlight, not starlight, but something deeper. It spilled in beams that froze the air, erasing color, devouring shadow. The dome was opening. I ran. Down stairwells that twisted differently now, walls stretching and contracting as though the observatory breathed. Doors opened onto wrong rooms, staircases folded into themselves. The song returned, broken but rising again, voices shrieking in dissonance. At last, I burst into the entrance hall. The great doors stood wide, the storm raging beyond. I plunged into the snow, lungs burning, ears ringing. Behind me, the observatory glowed. The dome's cracks widened, beams of pale fire stabbing skyward, painting the storm with veins of light. And within that light, for an instant, I saw a silhouette crawling across the heavens. Something vast. Something patient. And something that now knew me. I stumbled down the mountain, chasing the faint hope of Gregor's campfire. The song followed, rising from the observatory, carried on the storm. And beneath the song, faint but clear, words at last. The vessel awakens. The hollow feeds. The mountain swallowed sound. Even my own breath felt muffled, stolen by the storm. Each gust clawed through my coat, slicing skin, turning sweat to needles of ice. My legs moved like stone, heavy and slow, each step a war against the drifts that rose to my thighs. Behind me, the observatory pulsed with that unholy glow. Its broken dome spat veins of light into the sky, twisting the storm clouds into shapes that should never have formed, spirals, crooked sigils, lines of fire converging on a horizon I could not see. But worse than the light was the sound. The song still poured from the mountain, fractured now, but louder for its breaking. Voices rose and fell like a sea of agony, some too high, some too deep, vibrating the marrow of my bones. At times I could swear they were inside me, my own throat trembling with words I did not know. I forced myself down, one step, another. Somewhere ahead, there had to be people. Shelter. It was near dawn when I saw the first shape, a crooked spire of wood against the white, leaning like a man beaten by wind. A bell hung at its top, coated thick with ice. A village. Relief surged so fast it almost brought me to my knees. Smoke, real, blessed smoke, threaded weakly from chimneys clustered further downslope. Roofs bowed under the weight of snow, their edges furred with frost. But the village was too still. As I trudged between the first row of cabins, every window stared dark, every door sealed by drifts that seemed untouched for days. No barking of dogs, no chatter of morning chores. Only the storm, hissing through narrow alleys. Then I saw the footprints. A trail of them, scattered and chaotic, as though people had run through the snow in terror. Some prints were human, some not. The deeper ones dragged strange patterns, talons or claws carving grooves that didn't match any boot. I followed them toward the church. The church squatted at the center of the village, its steeple hunched like a shoulder under too much weight. The great door was cracked open, snow piled against its frame. My revolver was still warm against my palm as I pressed it aside and slipped in. Heat. Weak but real. A fire guttered in a stone hearth near the altar. Around it, a handful of figures huddled beneath ragged blankets. Their faces snapped toward me at once, gaunt, hollow-eyed, pale with fear. One man staggered up, axe in hand. His beard was frosted to his chest, his eyes sharp. "Stop right there. I mean no harm," I said, raising my free hand. "Name's Detective Pierce. I came down from the observatory." The words struck them like a stone into glass. Murmurs broke out, fear, anger, disbelief. "You're lying," a woman hissed. Her skin was stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, her hair a wild gray nest. "No one comes from there. Not alive." "I did," I said. "And if you value your lives, you'll listen." The man with the axe studied me, then lowered it slightly. "I'm Merrick," he said. "These are the last of us. The mountain's taken the rest." "The mountain?" I asked. Marek's jaw tightened. "Not the mountain. What woke in it?" They told me then. The observatory had been here for decades, built by foreign astronomers chasing some alignment of stars. At first, the villagers welcomed them, men of learning, promising protection against storms, a beacon of light in the dark months. But over time, the work grew strange. Nights of chanting, fires burning blue in the dome, symbols carved into the rock. The villagers kept away. Until the storms worsened. Until people vanished. "They take them," the gray-haired woman spat. "When the lights flare, they come down in the snow, hollow as shells. They drag our people back up." "They?" I pressed. Her answer was a whisper. "The choir." I remembered the voices in the dome, the dead rising, their eyes burning with starlight. My stomach turned. A boy stirred among the huddled survivors, no more than 12, wrapped in a coat far too large for him. His lips moved soundlessly at first, then words crawled free. "They said your name." My blood ran cold. "What?" "In the night," the boy said, his eyes fixed on mine. "When the lights broke. The song said your name. Over and over." The others shifted uneasily. Marek's grip on the axe tightened again. I forced my voice steady. "That's why I'm here. Whatever they've opened up there, it's not finished yet. If it is, none of us will live to see the thaw." Silence. Then the gray-haired woman spat again, shaking her head. "We're finished already." But Merrick didn't lower his eyes. His gaze stayed on me, hard and searching. Finally, he said, "What do you need from us?" I hadn't realized until that moment that I'd already decided. Running wasn't enough. The observatory wasn't just a wound in the mountain, it was a wound in the world. And it had seen me. I need to get back inside, I said. But not alone. Later, while the storm howled, Merrick showed me the bodies. They were kept in the cellar beneath the church. Blankets pulled over them, hands folded stiff across their chests. 10 of them, maybe more. All frozen solid, faces locked in expressions of terror. But that wasn't the worst. On their tongues, burned into the flesh, was the same star I'd seen on the director's hands. And on their skin, faint but growing, patterns of constellations spread like frostbite, lines of black tracing across pale flesh, joining in webs, maps of a sky I didn't recognize. They change after, Merrick muttered, voice heavy. Day by day. Until they get up again. Until the choir calls them. One of the bodies twitched then, jaw snapping faintly. The sound of teeth grinding filled the cellar. The boy screamed. I fired. The echo in that stone room rang too long. But when it faded, the survivors looked at me differently, not with suspicion, but with a fragile thread of hope. That night, while they slept in uneasy silence, I stood outside the church. The storm had eased, the sky above fractured with gaps of strange, pale light. The observatory loomed against the horizon, its dome cracked wide like a skull, beams spilling into the heavens. And in that light I thought I saw movement, something vast crawling along the sky, blotting stars as it went. The choir sang faintly in the distance, the sound woven into the wind. I knew then there would be no peace until the dome was closed. And perhaps not even then. The next morning, Merrick stood ready with his axe. 2 others joined, Ivana, a hunter with eyes like steel, and Tomas, a carpenter whose hands shook but held a hammer all the same. The boy clung to the woman, who refused to let him leave her side. We go together, Merrick said. I nodded. The frozen observatory waited. And I felt in my marrow that it was waiting for me most of all. The ascent was crueler the second time. Each step upward through the snow felt like a step deeper into something alive, a body of white flesh shifting beneath us. The storm had not fully relented, it circled us like a predator, pushing, pulling, blinding. Merrick led at the front, axe balanced across his shoulders. Ivana walked close behind, bow slung across her back, quiver clinking softly. Tomas trudged at the rear, breath ragged, his hammer swinging nervously in one hand. I stayed in the middle, revolver drawn, eyes fixed always on the ridges. We said little. Words felt wasted in that storm. But I could feel it. The choir. They did not need to be seen to be known. Their voices threaded the gale, weaving in and out of the wind. Not constant, not like the wail from the dome, but fractured, snatches of syllables, faint harmonies that rose and died as though carried on invisible tides. At first they were distant, then closer. And always they said my name. We stopped once to rest, huddling behind a crooked outcrop of rock. Merrick struck flint to light a lantern, its flame choking in the wind before it caught. The light was small, but we clung to it as though it might fend off the mountain itself. Tomas was the first to break the silence. Why us? His voice was thin, cracking. Why not let it burn? Let the mountain swallow itself. What difference will we make? Ivana's gaze cut sharp. Because if we don't, the valley burns next. Then the world. He shook his head, muttering. His hands wouldn't stop trembling. I said nothing. My throat was dry, my mind replaying the boy's words in the church. They said your name. The lantern sputtered. And in the brief darkness, I thought I saw shapes moving across the snowfield, figures crawling on hands and knees, dragging themselves against the wind. When the light returned, the slope was empty. We marched on. The path narrowed, hemmed in by jagged stone. Snow fell here in strange patterns, spirals and lines as though drawn by unseen hands. My boots struck a rhythm that was not mine alone. Footsteps echoed around us, though none of my companions moved out of sync. The voices grew louder. Not songs now, but whispers. Fragments of prayers. Open the vessel. The tongue of stars. Pierce. Pierce. I felt my jaw tighten. My name in their mouths was like ice beneath my skin. Then Tomas screamed. He dropped his hammer and staggered back, eyes wide, pointing at the snow ahead. We all froze. At first I saw nothing. Then the ground shifted. The drift before us heaved upward, and from it emerged a hand, black with frostbite, fingers bent wrong. Then another. Then a face, jaws cracked open, eyes burning faint blue. A corpse dragged itself free, skin stretched thin, snow clinging to its ribs. Its mouth opened wide, and though no sound came from its throat, the voices swelled in ours. More shapes tore free around it. 6, 10, a dozen, rising from beneath the snow like worms breaking soil. The choir had found us. Merrick roared and swung his axe, splitting the first skull with a crack. Ivana loosed an arrow into another, pinning it to the slope as it writhed. Tomas scrabbled for his hammer, striking wildly, shattering brittle arms that clawed toward him. I fired. Once. Twice. 3 times. Skulls burst like glass, spraying black and ice. But for each that fell, another rose. They came crawling, stumbling, half buried but relentless, their jaws working silently, their eyes fixed not on Merrick or Ivana, on me. Move! I shouted. We can't hold here! We broke, forcing upward through the throng. Marek's axe carved a path, Ivana's arrows sang, Tomas swung blindly, and I emptied my revolver, reloading with frozen fingers until the metal burned. Still, they swarmed. Hands snatched at my coat, claws scraping skin. One seized my arm, teeth snapping toward my throat. I jammed the revolver between its jaws and fired. The back of its head burst in a mist of frost and ink. We stumbled higher, lungs searing, legs quaking. Behind us, the choir crawled, dozens moving as one body, their movements jerky yet purposeful, like marionettes on strings. And always the song Pierce, Pierce, Pierce. At last, the path opened onto a ridge. We staggered onto it, snow whipping in all directions. Merrick turned, planting his boots, axe ready. We make our stand here! The ridge narrowed to a bottleneck. For a moment, I dared hope it might be enough. But the choir climbed. Dozens of corpses clawed their way up the slope, their faces split in silent screams, their limbs snapping and reforming in grotesque ways. Some crawled along the cliffside like insects, defying gravity. The 4 of us braced. They hit us like a wave. What followed was no fight but frenzy. Marek's axe rose and fell, each strike a desperate him. Ivana fired until her quiver was empty, then drew a knife, her eyes burning brighter than the corpses around her. Tomas wept openly as he swung, each blow wild, fueled by terror more than strength. I fired until the revolver clicked dry, then used it as a club, smashing teeth and bone. Blood, black, frozen, splattered the snow, staining it like ink on parchment. But the choir did not thin. They did not falter. They pressed us back, step by step, until the ridge crumbled beneath our boots. I slipped. My heels skidded on ice. For a heartbeat, the void yawned beneath me. Hands seized my coat, not corpse hands but Marek's, dragging me back. His eyes were wild. Move, damn you! We pushed again. Not forward. Up. The observatory loomed above, its dome spilling light across the storm. Every crack glowed like a wound. The voices grew deafening, rattling my skull. And still the choir climbed. At last, we stumbled into a cave mouth, dark, narrow, half buried by snow. Merrick shoved us inside, then swung his axe down, collapsing part of the entrance. The choir struck against the stone, clawing, scraping, but for the moment they could not enter. We collapsed in the dark, gasping. No fire. No lantern. Only the faint glow that seeped from cracks in the rock above, glow from the dome itself. Ivana's knife trembled in her hands. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll follow us to the end." "They don't want us," Merrick said hoarsely. His eyes found me through the dark. "They want him." I felt the weight of their stares. Felt the revolver heavy at my side. And in the silence, the song still whispered, not outside, not through the storm, but in my own skull. Clear now. Distinct. Not a choir at all. A voice. One voice, speaking through many mouths. Calling me nearer. We did not sleep. We dared not. Instead, we sat in that cave, watching the glow above us pulse like a heartbeat. The mountain trembled faintly, as though something vast moved inside it, shifting in restless sleep. I thought of the ledger from the last case, the names written there. I thought of the boy in the church, whispering that the song had spoken mine. And I knew this was not chance. The Frozen Observatory had not merely woken something. It had chosen. And I was the vessel it wanted. The cave narrowed as we pushed deeper, stone pressing in on both sides until only one of us could walk at a time. Snow gave way to ice, smooth and black, veins of pale light seeping through it like trapped lightning. The glow was steady now, not flickering as lanterns do, but pulsing, alive. We moved in silence. Even Tomas had lost the courage for complaint. His hammer dangled from his fingers, scraping the walls as he walked. Ivana led, her bow gone, knife drawn though it looked pitiful in her grip. Merrick brought up the rear, axe heavy across his shoulder. I stayed in the middle, revolver useless, my hand on the rock as though it might keep me steady. The choir had not pursued us into the cave. Their scratching at the entrance faded after only minutes. That silence should have been a relief. It was not. Silence here was a weight. Every drip of water from the ceiling landed like a footstep. Every breath echoed. And under it all, the voice. Not whispered anymore, not fractured through corpses or storm. It was inside. Behind my skull, at the back of my teeth. You came. At last. Vessel. I clenched my jaw until pain shot through it. Merrick noticed my stiffness but said nothing. Perhaps he already suspected. After what felt like an hour, the cave widened. The four of us stepped into a chamber of ice so vast I could not see its ceiling. The walls curved like a cathedral dome, frozen stalactites hanging like organ pipes. And in the center, a staircase. Not built, not carved, but grown. The ice itself spiraled upward, each step ridged with veins of light. It rose higher than sight, vanishing into the ceiling. Ivana cursed softly. It wants us to climb. Merrick spat on the floor. Then we cut it down instead. But the staircase did not look fragile. It pulsed with that same rhythm I had felt since the storm began. A heartbeat. And in my chest, my own pulse matched it. We ascended. Slowly. Each step thudded like a drum. The glow brightened as we climbed, painting our faces in corpse light. My hands shook. I told myself it was the cold. Halfway up, Tomas faltered. He dropped to one knee, gasping, hammer clattering down the stairs. His face was pale, his lips blue. I can't, he coughed, flecks of blood freezing on his chin. It's inside. Then he screamed. The sound tore from his chest, raw and jagged. He clutched his head, nails raking his scalp until blood streaked his face. His body bent backward, limbs spasming. And from his mouth poured not breath but voices, layered, shrieking, the same harmonies we had fled. The choir had found a new throat. Ivana lunged, trying to hold him down. He struck her aside with unnatural strength, eyes rolling white. Merrick raised his axe, but his arms trembled. "Don't," he growled. "Don't make me." I fired. The revolver's bark cracked like thunder in the frozen hall. The bullet tore through Tomas' skull. For a moment, silence. Then his body crumpled, twitching, until at last it lay still. The voices stopped. Only the echo of my shot remained. Ivana stared at me, fury and grief warring in her eyes. Merrick said nothing. He only bent, picked up Tomas' hammer, and carried it with his own weapon. We climbed on. 3 now, not 4. At the top, the staircase ended in a platform of black stone. No ice here, stone warm beneath my boots, humming faintly. Ahead yawned a doorway, tall and narrow, its arch carved with symbols that writhed if stared at too long. Beyond it lay the observatory. I stepped through first. The dome stretched above us, vast and round, its roof split wide to the storm outside. The great telescope, rusted and broken, jutted upward like a spear. But it was not the stars it pointed to. The lens was shattered, and from it spilled the same pale glow that had haunted us since the mountain. The observatory was not ruined. It was alive. Machines thrummed with no power, gears turning slowly as though driven by unseen hands. Desks lay scattered with instruments etched with runes, their metal surfaces cold as bone. And everywhere the light. It bled through cracks in the floor, leaked from the walls, dripped from the ceiling like water. And at the center of the dome stood a dais. On it rested a device, half machine, half altar. Brass, stone, and something darker interwoven. Chains bound it to the floor, glowing faint red as though still hot. And above it, suspended in the glow, hung a shape like a heart. Enormous. Beating. My pulse matched its rhythm. "Vessel," the voice whispered. "Come closer." I did not move. Merrick and Ivana flanked me, both staring in horror. "What is that?" Ivana breathed. "The observatory's core," Merrick muttered. "What they woke. What we were never meant to see." The heart pulsed. Light flared. And shadows peeled from the walls, figures forming out of emptiness. The choir. Not corpses this time, not flesh, but absence given shape. Hollow bodies, dozens of them, eyes pits of light, mouths open in silent song. They encircled the dais, blocking all retreat. The voice filled my skull. Louder now. Unbearable. The vessel is here. The chains break. The choir will feast. My revolver felt heavy, useless. My hand drifted instead to the ledger I had not known I still carried, the same from the last case, pages worn, ink faded. I opened it without thought. Inside, new names burned bright. Ivana. Merrick. Pierce. The ink bled, spreading like veins across the page. Ivana saw it. Her eyes widened. What is that?" I could not answer. Because the ink shifted. My name blurred, letters warping until only one word remained. Vessel. The shadows closed in. Ivana raised her knife. Merrick hefted axe and hammer both, teeth bared. And I felt the pull. Toward the heart. Toward the dais. Chains rattled. The observatory trembled. And somewhere beyond the dome, the storm split open, spilling starlight that was not from our sky. I staggered forward. My feet did not obey me. Marek's hand seized my shoulder, yanking me back. "Don't!" the voice roared. Not in my head now, but aloud, rattling the dome's very walls. "The vessel is mine." The chains cracked. The heart split. And from within spilled not blood, not flesh, but emptiness. Light that erased, shadow that burned. The observatory had opened. The moment the heart split, the world convulsed. The dome shuddered as if the mountain itself cried out in pain. Snow blasted through the broken roof, twisting into vortices that hissed like serpents. The machines lining the walls screamed with a chorus of gears grinding against themselves. The great telescope cracked in two, its pieces dangling from invisible threads of light. And I was no longer standing on stone. The dais beneath my boots had become something else, shifting, breathing, a surface that rose and fell like the chest of a sleeping animal. My steps sank inches deep, as if into flesh. The glow around the broken heart spilled across me, wrapping like chains though I saw no metal. Marek roared. His axe came down upon the invisible links. Sparks flew, real sparks, though there was nothing solid struck. The grip on me loosened for only a breath. Ivana lunged forward, knife flashing. She sliced at the tendrils of light, and for a heartbeat, the voices faltered. But then the choir sang. The sound did not pass through ears but through marrow, rattling bone, boiling blood. Ivana collapsed to her knees, clutching her head. Marek staggered but held firm, eyes bloodshot, lips peeled back in a snarl. And I heard something deeper. Vessel. The chains are not to hold you. They are to guide you. I wanted to scream denial, but my throat closed. My pulse matched the ruined heart's rhythm, faster, louder, until it was the only sound I knew. The choir advanced. Dozens of hollow figures, their forms flickering like shadows caught between dimensions. They circled, their mouths gaping wider, song thickening into something that could be touched, air made solid, vibrating, pressing against skin. Ivana tried to rise. Her knife trembled in her grip. "Pierce, don't listen!" But her voice was drowned. Marek swung wildly, axe and hammer both cleaving shadows that bled light when struck. Yet for each one he felled, two more formed, peeling from the walls, rising from cracks in the floor. The dais tilted beneath me. Not forward, not backward, but inward, as if I were being drawn into the very heart that pulsed above. I felt it now. Not hunger, not malice, but need. The thing inside that heart had waited. For years. Decades. Perhaps centuries. All for me. I tore free one hand from the invisible pull and drew the revolver. My arm shook, wrist burning. I aimed at the heart. The choir shrieked. Their song faltered. The chains coiled tighter. "Do not," the voice thundered. "You are not executioner. You are vessel." My finger tightened on the trigger. And then Marek crashed into me, knocking the gun away. His hand seized my coat, shaking me hard. "Fight it!" he bellowed, voice ragged. "You hear me? Don't give it what it wants!" His eyes blazed, blood trickling from his ears. He was breaking under the song, yet still he held on. That was when the chains wrapped him instead. His body arched, pulled backward by light that cut into his skin like wires. He screamed, dropping both weapons as the invisible bonds lifted him from the ground, suspending him above the dais. His flesh smoked where the chains touched. The heart pulsed brighter. Another vessel. A lesser shell. Acceptable until the chosen breaks. Marek's eyes rolled white. His scream tore into silence. Ivana staggered to her feet, shrieking wordless fury, and hurled her knife at the heart. It struck true, blade sinking deep into its glowing surface. For the first time, the voice faltered. The choir shrieked, staggering back, forms unraveling. The chains loosened around Merrick. The heart spasmed, its light dimming, and I saw within it, not emptiness, not darkness, but images. Cities drowned in ice. Oceans boiling. A sky cracked like glass. A future. Or a memory. The voice whispered again, weak but still commanding. Vessel, finish what she began. Break the chains fully. Free me. I staggered forward. The knife was still embedded in the heart, black veins spreading from its wound. My hand closed around the hilt. Ivana's voice cut through the storm. Pierce, don't! You'll free it! But Merrick, still hanging from the chains, gasped out words between sobs of pain. Do it, end it, before it takes me. My hand trembled on the blade. The choice burned through me like fire. If I pulled, the chains would break. The heart would burst. The thing inside would be free. If I left it, the observatory might collapse, the choir consume us, Merrick die screaming. My breath came ragged. Blood trickled from my nose, my ears. The song tore me apart. I pulled. The heart split fully. Light erupted, swallowing the dome, swallowing us all. The chains shattered into ash. Merrick fell body limp. Ivana's scream was ripped away by the gale. And I was no longer in the observatory. I was falling. Through sky that was not sky. Through oceans of ice, deserts of glass, forests of bone. Cities rose and crumbled in seconds. Towers split open to reveal veins of light. The stars overhead moved like eyes tracking me. The voice filled the void. Vessel. At last unbound. And then I struck ground. But it was not the observatory floor. It was somewhere else. I hit the ground hard enough to crack bone. Yet nothing broke. The surface beneath me was not stone, not snow, not soil. It was glass, but not smooth. It rippled with my every breath, dimly reflecting my outline as though the world itself were a mirror stretched too thin. When I pressed my hand against it, frost bloomed outward, veins of white crawling into infinity. The sky above me swirled with stars that moved of their own accord. They drifted like fish through water, colliding, splitting, reforming, their trails sketching symbols I almost recognized. Constellations that had no names on Earth, but which tugged at memory as though I had seen them once, in some childhood fever dream. I sat up. The observatory was gone. So were the shattered machines, the choir, Merrick, Ivana. Nothing remained but silence. And yet not silence. If I held my breath, I could hear it, the faintest murmur, like thousands whispering through walls. Their words were indistinct, but their intent was clear. Watching. Waiting. A shadow passed beneath the glass at my feet. I froze. Something enormous swam in the depths below, its body blotting out stars reflected in the surface. It moved with impossible grace, a leviathan drifting through an unseen ocean. Its shape bent light, part serpentine, part insected, part human, never fully one thing before shifting into another. It circled me. Slowly. Patiently. Vessel, came the voice, not booming now, not commanding, but intimate, close enough I felt its breath brush my ear. The chains are broken. The seal undone. Now you walk the hollow's marrow. I staggered back. Where are the others? Where's Merrick? Ivana? The whisper slithered. Fragments. Shadows. They will follow, if they survive the breaking. I wanted to demand more, but the ground beneath me shifted. The glass trembled, cracked, and a corridor formed. Walls rose where none had been, black stone, slick with frost, inscribed with names that glowed faintly as though written in dying embers. At the corridor's end, a door waited. Its surface was iron, rusted and scarred, chains hanging loose as though someone, or something, had already broken them. Across it, carved deep enough to bleed shadow, were words I read with dread. The archive opens. I should have turned back. Should have resisted. Should have forced myself to wake from whatever nightmare this was. Instead, I stepped forward. Each footfall echoed too loudly, as though I walked through the ribs of some colossal beast. The names on the walls flickered as I passed, strangers at first, then familiar ones. Victims from past cases. Murderers I had tracked. Colleagues long dead. And there, my own name, freshly carved. The letters seemed to pulse. My hand rose without command, fingertips brushing the grooves. The wall shuddered. The whisper thickened, words now distinct. Every name is a door. Every vessel carries its own lock. Will you open, detective? Will you see what is written of you? I yanked my hand away. The wall bled. Ink, not blood, seeped from the carving, dripping to the floor where it hissed against the frost. At last I reached the door. My hand trembled as I touched the rusted iron. Cold stabbed deep into bone, not of temperature but of memory, every loss, every mistake, every corpse I had knelt beside. They rushed me all at once, drowning me. And then the door opened. Beyond lay not another corridor, but a vast chamber. An archive, yes, but not of books or ledgers. Shelves stretched into infinity, each holding glass jars. Within each jar floated something black, writhing, pulsing. They twitched against the glass as though aware of me. Names covered the shelves. Not written, but whispered, a constant chorus of voices that shifted depending on where I looked. In the center of the chamber hung a desk, suspended by chains from nothing. Upon it lay a single open ledger, its pages turning of their own accord. Ink flowed across them as though invisible hands wrote even now. I approached. The ledger stilled. Its pages went blank. Then words bled onto the surface. Pierce. Vessel. Witness. And beneath, a line yet unwritten, the ink trembling as though waiting for me to supply it. Footsteps echoed behind me. I spun. Ivana. Her figure emerged from the corridor, clothes torn, face pale, knife still in hand. She looked at me with eyes wide, shaking her head. Don't read it. Don't look at it. That's what it wants. Her voice was real. Or seemed real. But behind her, in the corner of my vision, I saw Merrick. His body was broken, yet he walked, chains still coiled around his arms. His lips moved with no sound, but I knew the word they formed, vessel. 2 paths. 2 survivors. 1 truth. The ledger pulsed. The leviathan below the glass stirred. And the voice, stronger now, filled every corner of the archive. Choose. The hollow cannot wait forever. Ivana's breath misted in the frozen air as she staggered closer, knife trembling in her grip. Her eyes darted from the shelves of jars to the ledger before me, then to my hands, as though measuring whether I had already crossed some invisible threshold. Pierce, she rasped, voice hoarse. It's lying. Everything here. Its lies made flesh. Don't give it your name. Don't give it anything. Her tone was desperate, ragged, like a drowning woman warning against the undertow she herself was already caught in. But then Merrick stepped into the chamber. His body should not have moved at all. Limbs twisted, ribs splintered, skin blistered where chains had bitten too deep. Yet he walked with grim purpose, each step leaving faint cracks in the frost below. His eyes were dark pits, but they fixed on me with terrible clarity. Don't listen to her. His voice reverberated like iron dragged across stone. She's not Ivana anymore. The choir took her. I saw it, Ivana hissed, staggering back a step. That's what they do, Pierce. They twist what you see. They make you doubt the living and trust the dead. The ledger pulsed, the ink across its pages trembling, awaiting a hand to guide it. One name sustains. One name must be struck. The archive balances itself, the voice whispered, either Marek's nor Ivana's but the archivist itself, the leviathan swimming beneath, its shadow rippling through the chamber floor. The jars upon the shelves rattled. Black forms within pressed against their glass prisons, mouths open in silent pleas. I took one step closer to the ledger. The words upon the page shifted, resolving into three names once more. Pierce. Marek. Ivana. The ink wavered beneath Ivana's name, pooling, as though urging me to cross it out. Then it flickered to Marek's, urging the same. Two possibilities. One burden. Ivana dropped her knife, hands raised. Look at me, Pierce. Flesh and blood. My breath fogs the air. I bleed. I'm alive. He's a husk. Chains are all that keep him upright. Her words cracked but struck true. Her presence felt real in a way Marek's did not. But Marek bared his teeth, black smoke curling from his lips. You've seen what these things do. They take faces. They wear them until you believe. Ask yourself, would Ivana know the songs of the choir? Would she still carry their silence inside her? She's one of them. She'll drag you down. And indeed, I remembered. Ivana had collapsed in the stairwell when the choir first sang. Her body had writhed in pain no human should endure. Could she truly have survived that without being changed? The ledger pulsed harder, shaking the desk it rested on. The shelves trembled. Jars cracked. A sound like wings beating filled the archive, though no birds lived here. The voice surged through the chamber. Vessel. Choose. One must be written out, or all names shall collapse. The ink spread toward me, coiling across the desk, dripping toward my hands like veins seeking flesh. I staggered back, revolver rising instinctively. My hand shook as I pointed it between them, Ivana, clutching her chest, eyes wet with terror, and Marek, his body held together by chains of light, glaring with hollow certainty. Neither spoke now. Both simply waited. The choice was mine. My hand fell to the ledger. The pen formed itself there, black iron, sharp as a blade. Its weight pressed down like a verdict. The page breathed. One name glowed faintly. One name had to end. I hesitated, then carved. The name shriveled, ink dissolving into smoke. The jar nearest to me shattered, spilling its black contents across the frost, where it writhed once before dissolving into ash. A scream, whether Ivana's or Marek's I could not tell, tore through the archive. The survivor fell to their knees, clutching their head, while the other dissolved into nothingness, erased so fully that even memory of them dimmed. The ledger snapped shut. The shelves groaned, thousands of jars cracking in unison. The leviathan below stirred, the glass floor flexing as though it would shatter. And the voice, triumphant and vast, filled me. Balance restored. The archive breathes. The vessel descends further. The chamber split apart, shelves crashing into endless void. The survivor's scream mingled with mine as the ground gave way beneath us both. And once again, I was falling. We fell for what felt like eternity, through darkness punctured by shards of glass that spun around us like drifting stars. Some shards reflected my face, others faces I had never seen, and still others, nothing at all. When at last the descent slowed, I found myself upon a plain of obsidian. The surface shimmered like frozen water, reflecting not sky, not stars, but names. Endless constellations of words written in light sprawled above, each pulsing faintly like distant galaxies. The survivor, whether Merrick or Ivana, for even now memory blurred around the erased, lay nearby, groaning, their form flickering faintly as though unstable. The archive had taken its toll. I pushed myself upright. My breath crystallized in the air, but the cold was not of winter, it was of void, the absence of all warmth. Above, the constellations shifted. Names aligned into shapes, spirals, and wheels. As I watched, some winked out entirely, extinguished, leaving gaps in the sky like wounds. A voice unfurled across the plain. Not a whisper now, but a cathedral bell tolled that shook the marrow of my bones. Beneath the sky of names, the vessel walks. Every erased word carves deeper. The hollow nears its mouth. The surface rippled beneath me. Through its obsidian depths, I glimpsed movement, immense coils, vast as mountains, circling slowly, as though the leviathan of the archive had followed me even here. Its form was never clear, always at the edge of sight, sometimes serpentine, sometimes a hand, sometimes a mouth wider than cities. The survivor crawled to me, clutching their chest. Their voice was hoarse, broken. Pierce, this is the foundation. Not the observatory. Not the archive. This is beneath everything. The hollow's heart. Their face flickered again, sometimes the features of Merrick, sometimes Ivana's, sometimes a stranger's. The archive had blurred the truth of who I had saved. The constellations shifted. Names reformed. And then, unmistakably, 3 burned brighter than the rest. Pierce. The survivor. The hollow. The third name blazed like a star collapsing into itself, drawing light inward, a hunger too vast for words. Only one may ascend, the voice intoned. The vessel is fractured. Balance must be sealed. The obsidian plane shuddered. Cracks spiderwebbed outward, glowing with pale light that erased more than it illuminated. Through them, I glimpsed glimpses of the world above, the observatory buried in snow, the frozen telescope aimed at nothing, the town far below abandoned and silent. If the hollow rose fully, it would not remain in these frozen halls. It would unmake everything. The survivor grabbed my arm, their grip desperate. You can't let it take you, Pierce. It wants your name most of all. It's been waiting for you. I stared upward, at the constellations of names. So many extinguished. So many forgotten. Soon mine too would blaze or vanish. The leviathan stirred below. Its coils pressed against the obsidian surface, cracking it further. A single eye, vast, lidless, featureless, loomed beneath me, gazing upward with hunger older than stars. The voice swelled. The hollow rises. One name must fall. Vessel, choose. The ledger appeared once more in my hands, though I had never lifted it. Its pages opened, blank but for 3 words. Pierce. The survivor. The hollow. The pen formed itself again, heavy as judgment. I hesitated. My hand trembled. If I struck my own name, would it seal the hollow forever? Or would it erase me, leaving nothing to fight what came after? If I struck the survivors, would I damn them to nothingness, another casualty written out of memory? And if I struck the hollows, could a thing so vast, so old, so patient even be erased by ink? Or would that act only hasten its awakening, daring it to claw free of its bindings? The survivor clutched my coat, voice breaking. Pierce, please. Don't let it be me. Don't. But their voice fractured, shifting midward, becoming another's tone, then another, until I could not tell if it was Ivana, Merrick, or something the hollow had woven together. The constellations burned. Names fell like dying stars. The pen grew heavier, pulling my hand toward the page. Choose, the voice thundered. Or all names shall end. And as I raised the pen, staring at the 3 words before me, the plane cracked open, the Leviathan's mouth yawning wide, and I knew that whatever choice I made would ripple far beyond this frozen place. The end was near. The pen hovered above the ledger, my fingers trembling under its weight. Above me, the frozen constellations pulsed like the heartbeat of some cosmic entity, names flickering as if anticipating my choice. Below, the Leviathan's coils writhed beneath the obsidian surface, pressing upward, threatening to shatter the plane itself. I glanced at the survivor. Their form flickered between Merrick and Ivana, then an unrecognizable stranger, but the desperation in their eyes never changed. "Pierce, the hollow," they whispered. "It's waiting for a name. Yours or mine. Decide, or everything is lost." I swallowed, feeling the cold of the void seep into my bones. The ledger's ink glimmered, the 3 words glowing brighter than the rest. Pierce. The survivor. The hollow. The voice returned, louder now, reverberating through every fiber of the plane, every thought in my head. "Choose, vessel, or all shall be consumed." My mind raced. I had seen the hollow before. Its patience, its hunger, the way it consumed memory, names, even existence itself. The observatory, the archive, the frozen expanse beneath, it had been preparing this moment for centuries, waiting for me to arrive. I thought of the survivors, the people who had relied on me, the innocent world outside these frozen walls. Every second I hesitated, the void beneath pressed harder, stretching the coils higher, widening the cracks in the obsidian floor. And then it struck me, the truth I had been avoiding. The hollow did not simply feed. It demands a vessel, a bridge between its world and ours. One name to anchor it, to let it rise or to bind it. If I chose wrong, all would be devoured. I drew a deep, shuddering breath. My fingers pressed against the ledger, poised over the word that pulsed with its own intent. I chose. The moment I inscribed my own name, the plane erupted. The obsidian shattered in concentric waves, splintering upward like glass under pressure. The Leviathan surged through the cracks, but the ink glowed, a tether linking me to the hollow's vast form. Its coils writhed, thrashing against the binding, but could not break free. The survivor screamed, not in fear, but in relief. Their forms stabilized, no longer flickering, and they collapsed to the ground, sobbing, safe for the first time. Above, the constellations of names blinked and faded, leaving only the word Pierce burning faintly in the sky, tethered to the entity beneath. The hollow roared, not in victory, but in restrained fury. It was contained, anchored by my sacrifice, yet I could feel its patience waiting for the day the tether weakened. The frozen observatory above me dissolved into mist, and I found myself lying on the snow-covered grounds outside, the telescope shattered, the night sky clear and cold. The survivor was beside me, shivering yet alive. You did it," they whispered, awe and terror mingling in their voice. "I did what had to be done," I replied, voice hoarse, heart still hammering. "But it isn't gone. It's waiting. Always waiting." The wind howled across the frozen expanse, carrying a faint echo, the hollow's laughter, patient and eternal. I had survived, yet I had become its anchor. And somewhere in the void beneath the observatory, it waited for the next name, the next chance, the next mistake. I rose, dusting snow from my coat. The survivor looked at me, questions on their lips, but I shook my head. Some things were better left unspoken. The observatory was silent now. For the first time, I allowed myself to move, but the memory of the hollow expanse beneath, the voice that demanded a vessel, and the names that burned in the sky would follow me forever. And as I walked away, I knew one truth above all else: some doors, once opened, never truly close.